What's up guys, welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Riddell, and in today's video we go over a somewhat dubious but super interesting and honestly fun chess opening for white against the French defense with the Orthoschnapp Gambit. Now following the move e4, we see the French with e6, one of the strongest openings in all of chess for the black pieces, and usually here white goes with the main line of d4, just expanding in the center of the board. But here with the Orthoschnapp Gambit, we see this somewhat strange looking move, c4. I mean, this isn't a blunder, but what is white trying to do with this very off-key move? Well, we're trying to get a grip of the d5 square, and usually here, black just continues with the game plan of playing d5. But what happens if black doesn't play a move like d5? What if they play a move like c6 or b6 or even the move c5? In that case, guys, we're just going to continue to naturally develop our pieces. Play a move like knight f3, knight c3. If a move like knight f6 here, play bishop e2. We have castling kingside, one move away. We also can play the move d4, breaking this game open in the center, and white really has nothing to worry about. But again, guys, against the move c4, you're usually going to see black just continue with their move of d5. And in this case, we could take back with c takes d5. And following e takes d5, by the way, if you're trying to avoid the main line theory of the French defense, you've had enough playing against opponents who have spent hundreds of hours studying the opening theory and are very well prepared for the positions. This is an easy way to avoid that. Just play the move c4. Take on d5. In this position, you can just, yet again, take on d5. If queen takes d5, we have ideas like knight f3, knight c3 attacking the queen, bishop e2, castling kingside. I mean, this game is very simple and very easy for white. However, with the Orthoschnapp Gambit, we're not trying to play calm, quiet chess. We're going to play the move queen b3, which, by the way, yes, is a dubious move. We've barely seen this at the master and grandmaster level because if black plays perfectly here, they're simply going to have a better game. But if they're not prepared, white can get very quick and easy wins. And on top of that, this is just a very fun opening to play. Try it out for yourself if you'd like and see if you can get some wins with it. If you're having fun and you're winning games, why not? Here against the move queen b3, when we look at the Lichess database, and by the way, usually guys on these videos, when I talk about databases, I'm only looking at master and grandmaster level games. But again, there's not a ton with this position. So with this video, I looked at the Lichess database on online games across all time controls and platforms, trying to see what black usually plays, and then giving you guys the best variations for white against it. Here, black usually continues with d takes e4, which, by the way, is the accepted variation and the best variation for black. But how could black decline the variation? Well, first off, if a move like c6, we can just take that pawn, continue to develop our pieces, and white's completely fine. I'm not really too worried about the move c6. What we do need to be a little bit worried about is the move knight f6. Now, this is the second most popular option, attacking e4 and defending the pawn on d5. And against this, I recommend pushing the pawn to e5. And then here, if a move like knight e4, just continuing with knight f3. I think that black here, really to get any kind of advantage, needs to play the move knight c5, attacking the queen. I mean, if a move here like knight c6, we can just continue with d4, and all of a sudden, knight c5 is no longer available, and we have a very strong center. And some may wonder, why can't black really put the pressure on white? Play the move bishop b4 with check. Well, now we're just going to play knight c3. No worries there. If a move like castling kingside, okay, we'll play bishop d3. And now after bishop g4, at first sight, at least when I first saw this position, I was going, gosh, I mean, this seems like black has a ton of activity. But following bishop e3, it turns out that white's actually okay. I mean, we have 5 pieces on this 5th rank, and there's really not a ton that black can do. In fact, if you plug this into a computer program, it's going to give you a very slight advantage for white. Black really can't try to create anything immediately here. I mean, if a move like bishop takes f3, followed by knight g5, trying to create some kind of attacking chances, we don't really care about the pawn on f3. We're just going to castle queenside, and if knight takes f3, we can now just take that pawn off on d5. And this gives you a type of position that you can reach if black over pushes against the Orthoschnapp Gambit after declining it. Here, white is simply better. And notice here, knight f takes d4 doesn't work because we have bishop takes d4 followed by the crazy looking move, but very good move, bishop takes h7 with check. And following king takes h7, yes, we could just take this knight on d4 and have a 1 game, but even better than that is queen h3, whole idea being we want to bring our knight to f6, and all of a sudden black is going to have to give up their queen, or else they're simply going to have a rook move 1 square to the left, and we have ourselves a game over. So again, guys, following the main declined variation of knight f6, against the Orthoschnapp, we're going to play e5, and against knight e4, and knight f3, black really does need to play the move knight c5 here, not allowing d4 and keeping this knight on e4 for quite a long time. But even against knight c5, I do think that this is playable for white. I mean, we can play the move queen c3, and against knight e6, play d4. And yet again, black needs to play the move c5. If a move like knight c6, we're going to play bishop b5, pinning that knight. And black's going to have a very cramped and awkward game going forward with a very bad bishop on c8. And here, if we see the best move of c5, trying to create counterplay against white's center and really opening up this position, we can just continue with the move bishop e3. And notice here, I mean, if a move like a6, I'll admit, I mean, this queen is a little bit awkward on c3. I mean, usually in the French defense, we have 4 straight pawns, not a pawn, a queen, and then 2 pawns. So against a move like a6, I actually recommend playing queen d2, knight c3, and just trying to get a normal looking position. And we're just playing chess there. And here, if a move like knight c6, we're going to, again, waste no time in playing bishop b5, pinning that knight, castling kingside ideas on the way. And with a playable position for white, we're just playing chess. So guys, going back to this position, if you see black play a move like c6, just take the pawn. And if you see a move like knight f6, play e5, knight f3, and white has a playable game there. Now, what happens if black plays the best move of d takes e4? We're now going to play bishop c4, forming a battery ram on the a2, g8 diagonal, attacking the pawn on f7. And all of a sudden, this is kind of an awkward position for black to play. The only way for black to defend this pawn on f7, which, by the way, the f-pawns are the weakest pawns in chess because only the kings defend them. The only way for black to really well defend this pawn is with this queen on d8. I mean, for example, if a move like knight h6, we have d3, a very common idea in the Orthoschnapp Gambit, attacking this knight on h6, which is defending that key pawn on f7. And if a move like bishop e6, we're simply going to snatch that bishop off the board, give black double isolated pawns, take the pawn on b7. These pawns are going to drop off like candy, and white is simply better in that position from a practical standpoint. The best move here for black is to defend the pawn on f7 with queen e7, defending f7, defending e4, and in the case of d3 being played, which again, very common idea in the Orthoschnapp Gambit, this queen is now directly eyeing our king on e1. Guys, if you're an Orthoschnapp player, you should be very excited about eventually playing the move d3, opening this game up, but don't do it too early. In fact, if we do it right now, black could simply take with check, and following our normal move of bishop e3, black can now play queen b4 with check. And guys, we're not giving up 2 pawns to simply trade queens at move 7. This is the last thing we want. So against queen e7, don't play d3 immediately because of queen b4 check ideas, but instead play knight c3, and then the very next move, play d3. Whole idea being after e takes d3, we have bishop e3 and queen b4 ideas are no longer available because this simply is not a check. By the way, if black doesn't play the main option of taking on d3, we're going to play bishop e3 anyways. Here in this position, the most popular option for black is knight c6, just getting this minor piece into the game, eyeing squares like a5 and e5. But black here does have an interesting option, which I think is worth covering, and that is d2 with check. What do we do against this move? Obviously, we can't take back with the bishop because our bishop is pinned to our king on e1. And guys, king takes d2 is the most popular option online, but is a huge mistake. We're not giving up 2 pawns to simply put a king on d2 at move 8. I think much better is king f1. And now if a move like knight c6, play knight f3. And black needs to be very, very careful here. The only move that technically gives black an advantage is bishop d7. Any other move is a dead even game or much better for white. For example, I mean, when I was first looking at this position, I was going, okay, what would I play if I was in the black shoes? Well, a6 looks like a decent option, right? I mean, it's taking away the square of b5 from the bishop and the knight. We're also eyeing ideas like b5 expanding on the queen side, maybe even bishop b7. But guys, a move like a6 is just simply too slow because we play bishop takes d2, and the very next move, we're wanting to play rook e1, attacking the queen, which, by the way, is pinned to the king on e8. Again, we have a very strong position, a battery ram on this diagonal, attacking f7, knight g5 ideas in the air. The main threat being rook e1. Black is going to have to play this position flawlessly to get out alive, and even then, white is going to have the edge. So y'all, after this move knight f3 against the d2 check variation, black has to be very careful not to waste time with a move like a6 or even g6 trying to fee and shadow this bishop. Black needs to play the move bishop d7, trying to get this king castled. And against this, we're simply going to take that pawn on b7, whole idea being after rook b8, we capture the pawn on c7. And here after rook takes b2, we have a very dynamic position. And really here we have 2 options. One of them is playing knight takes d2, evening out the material, 4 pawns versus 4, 4 minor pieces versus 4 minor pieces. I would say after the move knight takes d2 and queen e5, I would give the slight advantage to black, but it's very playable for white. The more aggressive option here is knight g5, which technically isn't as good, but it is very fun, putting pressure on f7 with the knight and the bishop on c4. The best move here for black is knight d8, in which case we have bishop takes d2, followed by rook e1 ideas attacking this queen. Absolutely crazy game there. It simply depends if you're going to want to play a move like knight g5 and make this game out of control. Yes, black is technically better, but it's a very slippery slope and a very hard position to defend. So y'all, going back to this position, if d2 check is played, don't take back with your king, but simply play king f1, knight f3, take that pawn off on d2 with rook e1 ideas in the air, and white is going to have a very fun game there. What happens if black just goes with the main option of playing knight c6? Now, I'm going to recommend the move knight f3. A ton of players like to play castling queenside, but I would say that this is actually a big mistake because now black can play bishop d7 and simply castle queenside. We're not giving up 2 pawns just to allow us to castle queenside as well as black. And notice here queen takes b7 does not work because it runs into rook b8. Whole idea being, I mean, if a move like queen a6, black's going to have a very active rook, a knight coming to g4, attacking our bishop on e3 potentially. I mean, this is just not the position that we want. Queen b4 ideas also in the air. And if queen takes c7, queen b4 can be played, threatening a mate in 1. And the second we stop it, black plays the move bishop d6. And a move from now, guys, we're not going to have a queen. So again, guys, do not castle queenside because this allows black the opportunity to play bishop d7 and simply castle queenside as well. And queen takes b7 is no longer available because of the power that that queen b4 move has because of our king on c1. Instead, I recommend playing the move knight f3 first. And here, black does have quite a few different options. The best move here for black is queen d7, but this is a very hard move to find. Not a natural move, not even a human move. It does defend the pawn on d3 and the pawn on f7, and it does give this bishop some wiggle room, but this is just a very hard move to find, and it's honestly not very pretty. If you look at online games, the most popular options for black are knight a5 and bishop d7. Let's first take a look at knight a5. Well, this is just simply a mistake because of queen a4 check, attacking the king, and attacking this knight on a5. And if black wants to save the knight, they have to play the move knight c6. And here we could play the move queen b3, just going right back, but we don't want to draw here. We don't want a threefold repetition. We're going to castle queenside. And here we notice that by playing the move knight a5, we simply force that knight back to c6, giving us even more of an advantage in development. Rook e1 on the way, and this position is very hard for black. Black needs to be very, very careful. So knight a5 simply runs into queen a4. What about the move bishop d7? This is also very common. Well, against this, now queen takes b7 does work, because after rook b8, we snatch that pawn off. And notice here how queen b4 simply does not have as much force behind it, because our king is not on c1. Black is not threatening a mate in 1. And here, guys, there's one single move that gives white the lead here. Now, yet again, queen b4 is still not a weak-looking move. Queen takes b2 ideas in the air. Not a checkmate, but still attacking our knight and our rook. Is white in trouble? Well, here, guys, we have the key move, and I actually recommend memorizing this knight e5. Talk about an active knight. I mean, just putting a ton of pressure on the black camp here, as well as defending this bishop on c4. Notice here, if queen takes b2, we now have bishop takes f7 with check, followed by bishop c5, and we have ourselves a checkmate and a game over. And here, if a move like knight takes e5, we simply take back with the queen, and the computer gives white a slight advantage there. And if a move like bishop d6, which looks very strong, attacking our queen and attacking our knight, we now have bishop takes f7 check, and this king, if it goes to f8, we have knight takes d7 check, and white is simply better there. And if king e7, we now have knight takes c6 check. There's simply no way for black to stop us from winning material. Notice how this bishop cannot move because it's pinned by the queen to the king on e7. And here, if a move like king takes f7, we could take the queen on b4 and have a slightly better game. But guys, why not try to get something back for this queen on c7? Why not play the move queen takes b8? Notice here, if the queen takes on b8, or if the queen doesn't take on b8, in either case, we're going to win a queen. And here, after a move like bishop takes b4, we simply castle kingside. We're up the exchange and up a pawn, so 3 points in total. This game's simply over. So again, guys, in summary, if you see a move like knight a5, we have queen a4. If a move like bishop d7, we simply take the pawn on b7, and white has the better game there. And here, if black plays too slow with a move like a6, we're actually just able to castle kingside, get our rooks involved on e1 and d1, and white has a nice game there. What happens if black somehow plays the computer type move of queen d7. Maybe your opponent has really prepared well for the Orthoschnapp Gambit and has prepared this queen d7 move. Well, now we're simply going to castle kingside. And really the point of queen d7 is, yes, it does give this bishop some wiggle room, but on top of that, it brings out this knight a5 idea. Very hard move to find, but very nice idea. Attacking the queen and attacking the bishop. Notice how queen a4 is no longer a check because of queen d7. In this case, we can simply play queen b5, prepared for knight takes c4 with queen takes c4, and I would give black the slight edge there. But from a practical standpoint, a very hard position to play with as black, and a very easy position to play with as white. Kind of interesting how that works in this position. Black is technically better, but they have a very hard and difficult game ahead. And if a move like queen takes b5 trying to trade off, we simply take that queen right off, and after c6, take the pawn off on d3. And yes, black is up a pawn here, but guys, in this position, we have a very active bishop pair. We're specifically eyeing the pawn on a7 if black castles queenside, and if black castles kingside, our bishops are also very active attacking the king side of the board. These knights are ready to jump in at a moment's notice. These rooks are ready to come to the squares of e1 and d1, just taking complete control of the two completely open files. And here, technically, if you plug this into a computer program, it's going to give you about a minus 0.3 advantage for black, so really hardly anything at all. But I personally, even though I know the computer evaluation, would rather have white. It's just a much more natural and much more easy position to play. Thanks for watching today's video. If you'd like to learn how to play the Ready Gambit, another fun option for white against the French defense, click the video to the left. If you'd like to see our top 5 underrated chess openings for white against the Sicilian defense, click that video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.